Hello, hello. We are at the 7th of November. These are pre-recorded, and we are going to talk about ghosts. This would have probably been a good subject of discussion maybe last week, which would have been Halloween. But I want to touch on this subject because there's so much lore around this topic. And then you have blatant skeptics, and then you have other people that are just complete believers. So it's a very controversial topic in the world of the paranormal. But before I get started, I'd like to share some of the audience comments that have been forwarded to me. One person said that they have a man who stands in their hallway at the bottom of the stairs. He doesn't do anything but stand there. He is, let's see what she says. She said it's a bit unnerving if she's downstairs, especially if she walks through him. And I want to add something in really quick before I forget, because I definitely want to talk about this. The next piece of information was from another viewer that said that they moved into their great aunt's home about 3 years ago when she entered a nursing home, and her uncle died in 1972 when she was just a teenager. She lives alone, or lived alone in the home from 2006 to 2009. She said that often she would sit at the kitchen table or in the breakfast nook, and it had a picture window that overlooked the breezeway that led into the garage. And she would always see a shadow kind of flit by, at least a couple of times a week. She finally asked her cousin if it could be their uncle visiting the home, and she said that she'd sometimes even feel his presence in the breezeway that used to be his den, and that she wasn't surprised at all to see the shadows. Originally, she contacted me based on the shadow people subject, but what she's describing is more of a ghost situation or a haunting. Then I had another viewer that said that they have seen shadows walking past their bed. Again, this came in with the shadow people, but it seemed more appropriate for ghosts. So I guess the reason why we're talking about this are there's several questions that a lot of people ask. And the first is, are they real? And are they figments of our imagination? Is it just something that we conjure up in our mind that doesn't truly exist outside of our thoughts? There are literally thousands of documented accounts of ghost encounters. I think that's profound, because if you have one or two people saying that it happened, that's a little bit different than thousands of accounts. There are also many types of ghosts, and that's what we're going to focus on this evening. So let's start with human ghosts. These are people that haven't crossed over for whatever reason. Many believe that if someone is killed or they die as a result of a traumatic event, that they will become stuck here. Thus, they become ghosts. And these are known as earthbound spirits. Often, they require help to pass on, which has been my experience with most earthbound spirits. A lot of them don't even know that they're dead. When we were talking in the Bumps of the Night series, I told you about the little boy that we passed on during an investigation and helped him cross over. And then I also talked about not so much a haunting, but the gentleman who died of cancer in the house, my very first house that I bought, made an appearance to me without me even realizing that it was him. They're human spirits, so that makes me less fearful of them. And what I will say on the subject is that I believe that each of us is made up of a soul, or energy, if you will. Evidence-based research tells us that energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be changed. So if you happen to agree with this, what happens at the time of death? Which is the resounding question on everyone's mind, because most of us don't have conscious memory of how we died. Yes, I do believe in reincarnation. I absolutely believe in it. I believe that we're made up of several lives, and we bring that to the table with us each time we enter a new body. I don't believe everyone is reincarnated. I believe it depends on what job they have when they leave this world. Some people are given the wonderful job of being a spirit guide. Other people are given a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance. Some people have died tragically and they get a do-over, so to speak. Time and space means nothing outside of this body because it's limitless. So it's felt that ghosts or earthbound spirits can interact with living people because they were living people. And this explains the documented eyewitness accounts. And I'll get to this in a minute, the next thing we're going to talk about is residual hauntings. And what those are, it's almost like a recording in time. The ghost or the spirit is stuck. Even more so than earthbound spirits. These ghosts are doing the same thing over and over again. For example, if you would see a soldier guarding a piece of property or something, and you're always seeing that entity do that thing, they are residual. They are reenacting, recreating all the time. That's what they do. And sometimes they're attached to a piece of property. Sometimes they're attached to a situation. Typically with residuals, it's not a person that they're attached to. They typically don't interact with people because they don't realize that that time in their life has passed. They can even live a full life and die, and they'll choose a moment in time. Remember, I said there's no time and space limitations when you're not here. When we're dead, there's no time and space, and that doesn't block them. So if that's something that they enjoy doing, or if they have an attachment with a building or something like that, they will continue to reenact that. The other type of ghost is a messenger ghost. And these are thought to be the most common of all the ghosts that interact with us or that we're aware of. And these types of ghosts usually show up soon after their own death. They know they've died, and they often come back with messages for us. They can offer comfort to those that are left behind, and they are thought to only appear once, but I disagree with this. When we sleep, our defenses are down, and our conscious self is at rest, leaving us open to things that we normally miss in everyday life. And many messenger ghosts, they can use dreams to interact with us. And I don't believe that the human spirit is limited once we drop the flesh. We're very limited when we're in our physical form. Because I've said this before, we are souls and light wrapped in flesh. And with the flesh, there are limits. And once we drop the physical body, the possibilities are absolutely endless. And I feel like the flesh holds us captive while we're here. And when we're no longer in the flesh, we can go anywhere that we want to and interact with whoever we want to interact with. So I do believe there are messages that are sent to us, but I don't believe that there's one message and then it's over. I believe that as long as we're able to dream, and as long as there's an unconscious or subconscious piece of our being, that is an inlet for interaction with those who have passed on and that still want to communicate with us. Poltergeists are the most feared type of ghosts that we encounter here when we're in the physical world. These unexplained noises, bangs on walls, footsteps, even accounts of people having things flung across the room. These are often poltergeist activities, and they can hide things from us. For example, when I was living in southwestern Ohio, I knew that I had put my keys on the table, and I was getting ready to leave, and they were gone. I could not find them. And if you've listened to the Bumps in the Night series, you'll know that there was definitely interaction going in that house. And so I finally found the keys, and they were under the cushion in the love seat. That is a perfect example of a poltergeist encounter. I didn't see anything. I left the room, left the keys on the table, came back, and they were gone. And found them after I ripped the entire living room apart underneath the cushion in the love seat. Poltergeists also are thought to be able to physically attach to people. They are closely related to demonic activity. So that's why a lot of people fear poltergeists, is because it's believed that they are demonic in some form. And if you've watched the Bumps in the Night series, you'll know that they do have the ability to communicate with us. They often thrive on that type of communication. I've had dreams of things happening, and then they can definitely make themselves known. The whole, I feel like something's watching me, I feel like I'm not in this room by myself, those are all poltergeist activities. Also, some believe that, like for example, I just used the object flinging across the room. Some people put an emphasis on psychokinesis, that it is possible to be so stressed out or to be under duress that that line between our ability to be physical and our ability to be spiritual crosses, and that we have the ability to do things with our minds that some people would think impossible. So what do skeptics say? They say, The one last thing that I want to touch on is ghost attachments. Is it possible to have a ghost attached to you? Absolutely. This can be good or bad. Some people feel that ghost attachments are almost like leeches, and they attach to your energy source and they will suck you dry. Other people don't believe that. Some people believe that they are helpful in some way, but that is where I believe that they have a bigger role. They've crossed on and they've come back. And for example, my aunt, I have had direct contact through my dreams and consciously with my grandmother on my father's side, my aunt, and my grandfather on my mother's side. But it's all, most of it has been through dreams, but sometimes not so much. My grandmother, I have interaction with her almost on a daily basis. And it can be up to several times an hour. I always feel her presence with me, and that's the difference. She is a spirit guide. She is not a ghost. She was a ghost. She did die very traumatically and very suddenly. But I believe that she had the ability to cross over, and she's come back. Spirit guides is something that we're going to talk about in our episode on December 5th, because they are very powerful, and if you will, the Christian faith calls them angels, and that is very accurate. But the one thing I want to leave you with is skeptics believe that we are all crazy, that ghosts do not exist, that there is no such thing as the paranormal, that there's no such thing as a soul, that there's no such thing as divine energy. And what I can tell you is this. For those of us that have experienced ghost contact, it is very real. So to have a skeptic sit down with me and say, you're delusional, I can tell you right now that I would look them in the face and tell them that they're wrong. Anyone that has had any experiences with any type of paranormal activity will tell a skeptic there's a reason you're a skeptic, and it's because you have not opened your mind to the possibilities of what you cannot see and what you cannot understand. So with that, I would like to thank you for watching, and tune in next time, which we are scheduled for another episode on the 21st of November, and we are going to talk about the impact of horror movies and why some of us are more scared to watch them versus people that don't mind watching them at all. So with that, love and light to you, and have a great day wherever you are.